I'm Egbert, the owner of this station. Check out my website at egbert.com. That's EGGBURT, egbert.com. Now it's back to Brad and John. Check out their website at bjshow.co. The BJ Show? Come on, guys. Anyway, here's B and J.
Well, people talk about toxic masculinity and easy fix. Be a gentleman, be a mensch. That's it. This is done. Be a gentleman, be a mensch.
That's all you have to
do. A gentleman is never rude by accident.
That's all you have to do, John. You have to be a gentleman. You have to be a mensch. Okay, couple things to talk about. Let's do our last segment of the show, the C block here. I saw this thing the other day, and I thought to myself, okay, this is ridiculous. Have you seen this crazy ad? It's not on broadcast TV. It's on the internet, where it has a guy, let's say he's in bed watching porn, and you can fill in the blank there, okay? And all of a sudden, a voice comes out of the TV set saying that and he's watching porn. That's the important thing. He's watching porn on his TV or his computer or whatever. And the voice comes over and said, if you elect the Trump campaign, if you're the Trump candidate, they're going to outlaw porn and you won't have porn anymore. So in other words, the idea behind the ad is vote for Harris, because if you vote for Trump, he's going to outlaw porn. I mean, does it get any weirder than that?
I saw chatter about this on X yesterday, but I didn't click on it because I thought it was a parody. That's not a real ad, right?
It's a real ad put out by some organization that is against Trump and essentially against Republicans in general, because once again, the Republicans are going to make porn illegal. Okay? Guess what? I don't care if the nastiest ruler in the history of the world came back, if Stalin came back, nobody's going to be able to outlaw porn, because you can't. It just is not going to happen. It's one of those things that you'd think we'd learned our lesson when you go back in the United States when we had prohibition and we outlawed alcohol, because guess what? Alcohol still existed. Matter of fact, alcohol became more prevalent, and because of the fact that it was illegal, and therefore it was like, oh wow, let's go to the speakeasy. Let's go to the bootlegger's place. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And there's it's just like saying, okay, let's outlaw drugs. Not going to happen. I mean, you can outlaw them, but can you stamp out drugs? No, it's never going to happen. So no, it wasn't a spoof ad. It was a real ad. I can't remember. I didn't write down who the name of it's some organization, and it's like a super PAC or something like that. And it's essentially a bunch of the porn producers who've gotten together to do this, essentially say, well, they're going to try to kill our industry. We can't have that. Which is like, okay, crazy stuff, okay? There's that one, okay? Kim Gardner. You and I didn't talk about this one.
Yes, you're right, Brad.
Right, all the things we missed last week. Kim Gardner, and this came out, she pled guilty, and tell me if I'm right or wrong. You read the story on this. She pled guilty to misuse of public funds. What's that what it was?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and more specifically, using public funds to pay her own expenses.
Right. And what were the expenses? You know the story of the expenses she paid?
They were her legal bills.
Yes, it was her legal bills of her getting sanctioned by the Missouri Supreme Court. She paid and that was a personal case against her. She paid the Missouri, her lawyer's fees and the fine that was levied on her by the Missouri Supreme Court with use of public funds. I'm going like, I don't believe it. I mean,
yeah. But actually, Brett, when I was reading this, it makes perfect sense to me, because she knew she was in trouble. She knew she was, on her way out. She knew she was essentially busted. So how much more trouble can you get in, especially if you think, look, I'll pay the money back eventually. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're already going down, have the taxpayers lend you a few bucks, or as they say it in Spanish Lake, Brad, let me hold a couple dollars, right? Let me just hold a little money for a little while. and then I'll get you back.
So in other words, if you know you're going to get indicted for let's say rape, it's okay to go murder somebody because you know you're already going down. Is that what you're essentially saying?
Yeah. Or maybe something a little lesser. That might be a little extreme, Brad. But what I love about it is, did you happen to see Tony Messenger's column about this?
No, what did Tony say about it?
Tony said that it was, I'm pull it up right here. Here's the headline from Tony. It says, Kim Gardner broke the law but isn't going to jail. And that's okay. Because we don't need, now Tony's point, which I think has some validity to it, there are a whole lot of people that don't deserve to sit in jail, right? They commit crimes against property or financial problems or financial crimes and shouldn't be taking up space in jail. Like, I understand that argument. But to read his whole piece, you should go back to, I linked to this on Thursday of last week. But his whole point is, look, she took some money, and here's what Tony says. He says, there will be some in the, quote, lock her up crowd who will be upset that she doesn't end up with a conviction and she's avoiding jail time. But to what end and to what cost to taxpayers? So, I mean, Tony does have a point, and that we're not really served by Kim Gardner, I don't think, actually sitting in jail. But it does, on the other hand, Brad, it sounds kind of like, well, you know what? She just pays it back, so no harm, no foul.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, the thing that bothers me about the whole situation is that she is an attorney, and she is the prosecuting attorney, at least she was for the city of St. Louis. If there's ever someone who should have an absolute positive, clean bill of health as far as the law is concerned, don't you think it should be the prosecuting attorney? It's just like the problem I have, numerous problems with Josh Hawley, that when he was the attorney general, there is a law that's still in the books. I think it's in the Missouri Constitution that states that the attorney general shall live in Jefferson City. And he just essentially, gave third phalanges to the state. I'm not living in Jefferson City. He lived someplace in Boone County, which is the next county over. But still, he was flaunting the law. He's the attorney general, And once again, it's like going back to my old days of working for the police department. Who were the people that flaunted the law? The people that were like, for example, we had one example of a guy who was a very high muckety muck in the community where I worked as a police dispatcher, and he would constantly park his car in no parking zones. Constantly. Everybody knew it was him. He had a very distinctive car. And essentially he was like, I'm an important person. I'm not going to get a parking ticket. And for the most part, he didn't. How many times have you heard stories about, once again, trust me, the words you never want to speak to a police officer when you're being pulled over are, do you know who I am? You never want to say that.
That's going to irritate them more than anything.
Because,
Red, can we split hairs for a second here?
Yeah.
I think you said flaunting, you mean flouting.
I'm sorry.
You mean flouting the law, not flaunting the law.
Yes, I'm sorry. You're correct.
Yeah. Well, I expect a more hearty apology than that, Brad. You should apologize vigorously for that. Now, also, I will point out, too, that we have just eclipsed the 4-year anniversary of when Cori Bush was first elected to Congress. Think back to August of 2020, Brad. We were in the early days of the pandemic. And the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and local news outlets both flaunted and flouted the fact that we had in St. Louis Black Girl Magic. And the press conference featured Cori Bush, Kim Gardner, and Tashara Jones. Now, 2 of those folks have either left office or are on the way out. And Tashara Jones is up for re-election next year, Brad. So is Black Girl Magic in St. Louis still a thing? Or are they not magic people anymore? Has the magic rubbed off? Do we have to put the genie in the bottle? Do we have to rub you the right way? Is it still a thing, Brad?
What drives me nuts about this whole situation is you talk about the black girl magic. It's like right now people are saying, well, if Kamala is made president, we have another first. We have the first woman. We have the first black woman. The first Indian woman. And I'm going like, look, I don't care. I don't care who gets elected. I want the best person. If the best person is a Buddhist monk, I'm going like, yes. I don't understand understand this whole thing. I get it that people say the black people have been oppressed for so long. Okay, we had Barack Obama. It's not like this country's not racist. We elected a black president and he got reelected. It wasn't like,
yes,
and to the point where, and the situation now, it's gotten to the point where okay, I don't understand it. And, it's just to the point where, you hear this, it's first, and the whole thing when Kareem Jean-Pierre, or where is it, Corin, what's her name? KJP. KJP. Oh, she's the first black lesbian, press secretary. Nobody says, if they would have said, she's going to be the best press secretary ever, and she turned out to be the best press secretary ever, then I'm impressed. But I'm not impressed because she's the first whatever. I just don't get that whole thing. Now, I do understand that, like I said, that, that people have, you go back and the argument will be, well, look at Frank Robinson. You look at the whole thing with him. He was the first black Jackie Robinson, our first black player in the major leagues. That's different. He had talent, and he was being suppressed because of the fact that back in the day, they didn't allow Negroes, and that's what they were called back then. They didn't allow Negroes into the major league. Was not allowed. There was a rule against that. And so once again, he broke that color barrier, not because of the fact that he was just a black dude. He was an incredibly talented black baseball player. I get that. I have no problem with that. But I don't understand the thing. We got to have first. Oh, man.
But just imagine, and I doubt this would happen, but imagine in 2028 or 2032 or whenever, if the Democrats have a weak bench and end up nominating, don't have a woman on the ticket, what if you had, I don't know, Tulsi Gabbard? Or what if you had Sarah Huckabee Sanders at the top of the Republican ticket? Do you think we'd hear much about Madam President, time for a female president?
Well, I still say that Trump made a mistake. I still say his vice president pick should have been Tulsi Gabbard. I mean,
that's because you want to see her every day, Brad.
What an impressive woman. I mean, do you know she's like right now, she's a lieutenant colonel in the Army. She's still in the Army. And once again, whereas Tim Walz can say, well, I took a weapon of war in a combat zone. He never did. Guess what? Tulsi Gabbard did. Tulsi Gabbard was in a medical unit, and she actually has a combat award. So it's not like that's, well, she wasn't really in combat. Yes, she was in combat. Now, was she, on front lines? No.
Listen, you off the air about how badly you want to be in her foxhole, Brad.
I'm not gonna touch that. Okay, last thing we talk about.
You said you'd serve in a foxhole with her. You'd fight side by side.
John, never mind. Okay, last thing we're going to talk about is the Washington Post. Have you heard the meltdown that's going on the Washington Post?
Yes, so they've decided to not, the paper collectively has decided to not endorse a presidential candidate, and there's speculation why, and liberals are having a big meltdown.
Because of Jeff Bezos. And if you know the story, Jeff Bezos, the head dude, or he's not the head dude anymore, but he was the founder, and still he's not even, I don't even know if he was on the board or any not. He's sort of retired, and he's got somebody running Amazon right now. Amazon, one of his units is AWS, Amazon Web Services, and the government has huge contracts with AWS doing cloud computing and stuff like that. So the reason supposedly is they're getting ready to, the Washington Post getting ready to put out their endorsement. We talked about endorsements last week. I have never voted for anybody because they've been endorsed by anyone. Matter of fact, a lot of times if someone says, I endorse so-and-so, I'm going like, well, I'm not going to vote for that person then.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is the staff of the Washington Post is melting down because they were getting ready to publish their endorsement of Kamala Harris. And at the last minute, apparently Jeff Bezos said, don't do that. You're not going to give any endorsements. So in other words, the staff, and I think I took a screenshot of this. Let me find. There's a classic quote in here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Here we go. Okay, this is off an article. Here, I'll read you this. This is from an article read this morning. Today has been an absolute stab in the back. That's a quote from left-wing Post columnist Karen Attiah, Attiaha, who wrote on Friday, quote, "What an insult to those of us who have literally put our careers and lives on the line to call out threats to human rights and democracy." They are so against Trump, and they talk about this stuff, he's Hitler and stuff like that. Okay, these are journalists. These are people who are supposed to be, matter of fact, in my old day, they're supposed to be unbiased. They are as unbiased as I am a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model. You know what I mean? Trust me, I'm not a Sports Illustrated, even though they put on the cover. They put on who's what's her name? The
Lizzo?
No. The lady who was the homemaker who ended up in jail. You know what I'm talking about. Come on.
No, I don't.
Come on, help me with this. My mind's blank right now.
It's Sports Illustrated?
Martha Stewart.
Oh, Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart was in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition last year, I believe, or maybe this year, stuff like that.
Oh,
okay?
Gross.
Yeah, well, but once again, if you read this article, everybody, and they already talked about 2 people have resigned. I'm going like, once again, do you think that you get a fair, an unbalanced view of the news by reading some of these, the Washington Post? The same things happen in the LA Times because there's some rich dude that owns the LA Times. His daughter's got her all upset because of the fact her father owns it. And once again, they did not endorse. So the idea being is what they're essentially saying we don't think either candidate's qualified. Hey, John, who said that all along? Who said that if I had my choice, I'd vote for none of them, right? Who said that?
Yeah, that's Brad Hildebrand.
That's me. I'm the guy.
And in fact, you're not even voting.
Well, people said to me, "Oh, you're a Trump supporter." You know what? To be honest with you, I'm a nobody supporter. I think we have 2 not so great candidates running for president. I wish that somebody like a fresh face, like a Tulsi Gabbard or something like that would come along, and I would vote for her. I would end my ban on voting. I just say, okay, I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote for Tulsi.
Well, I hope that you wouldn't go to St. Charles County, though, because you could never get back on the highway.
Well, Pastor Brad could go out to Element Church and maybe he could convert some of those Element Church followers over to God Squad.
Don't ask them for a new list of polling places because they'll say they'll email it to you, and then you'll have to go out to your car and send an email. You'll have to come back the next day. It's terrible.
John's still upset about the fact that I had my little run-in with Kurt Barr. And what was the other guy's name? Tim Parkinson? What was his name?
No, Mark Parkinson.
Mark Parkinson. Okay. I'm my little run-in with them out at the election office where I went out to get a list of the candidates and they wouldn't give it to me. And I'm going like, well, dude, first off, they said it's on the website. No, it's not on the website. Look, well, it's on the website. So they go on the computer and look. It's not on the website. They don't even know what's on their own website. Isn't that crazy? Okay, John. Hey, John, it's good to have you back. And by the way,
great. It was so great. It's so great to be back with you, Brad.
And all the nice insults you gave me this morning, I do appreciate them.
Of course.
Every once in a while, somebody will say, he's really making fun of you. I go, yeah, so what? I don't care.
Yeah, hey, Brad, stop flaunting your meanness, okay? Stop flouting it and flaunting it.
Bye, John.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?